Elder Father Vissarion, Georgian, he passed to the Lord in 1893. Father Vissarion was born in 1807 in the Principality of Guria, in the Kingdom of Georgia. He was baptized with the name Basil. His parents, Protopresbyteros Maximus and Anna, belonged to the noble Kikodze family. His father served at the court of the ruling prince of Guria, Mamia Gurieli, who passed away in 1810, shortly after having ceded his principality to Russia. At that time, the education of young people began at home under the guidance of elders in the family and ended within the walls of monasteries. The textbooks used were liturgical and patristic books. In the past, for centuries, Georgia had the custom of sending 12 young men to Athens every 3 years to receive higher education. The children of prominent princes were mostly chosen for this purpose. Basil's grandfather, priest Gerasim, after being widowed, entered the monastery of Namernevi in the Lechhumi region of Kutaisi province. It was here, under the guidance of this elder, that the young Basil stayed for several years. After the death of his grandfather, Basil immediately left his homeland and went to Mount Athos. The story unfolded as follows. A neighbor of Basil was traveling to Jerusalem and, on the return journey, stopped at Mount Athos. There, he met Father Vissarion's spiritual father, Father Benedict, who, at the neighbor's request, tonsured him into the Rasufor. Upon returning to Georgia, he shared many stories about the high life of his spiritual father, the Athonite elder. Among the listeners was young Basil, who decided to go to Mount Athos to meet the elder. He revealed his intention to his father, but the father did not approve of it and refused to let him go. So Basil took matters into his own hands, began collecting money, and informed his father of his firm decision to go to Mount Athos. Basil traveled on foot to Kutaisi. There he obtained a passport and continued his journey to Poti, along the coast of the Black Sea, where he found a ship that was about to sail to Constantinople. During the voyage, he met a merchant, an Armenian, who, upon learning about Basil's goal and his lack of funds, advised him that when the ship will dock in Trebizond, he should disembark and seek help from the Turkish Pasha, a man very kind to Christians. Basil took the advice, and as soon as the ship anchored in the port, he and the merchant went ashore in a boat. The merchant led him to the Pasha's house and encouraged him to enter without fear. The Pasha ordered him to be admitted. Basil did not falter or abase himself as a Christian before the Muslim Pasha. Upon entering the room, where according to the Eastern custom, the Pasha sat with his legs tucked under him, Basil respectfully bowed and, approaching, kissed the place near the Pasha on the divan. When later asked why he had not kissed the Pasha's hand or knee as is customary in Georgia, he replied, "How could I kiss his hand or knee? After all, he is a Turk." The Pasha's servants explained to him that the man intended to go to Jerusalem but lacked the funds and was asking for mercy. The Pasha ordered that 180 lef be given to him, a considerable sum. Upon arriving in Constantinople, Basil quickly found a ship bound for Mount Athos, and not long after finally set foot on the land of the Holy Mountain. It was 1835, and Basil was 28 years old. In Careas, he met a Greek monk who knew Georgian, having spent some time in Georgia at the Iveron monastery's dependency. Upon learning of Basil's purpose for coming to Mount Athos, the monk directed him to Father Benedict. Father Benedict was overjoyed to learn that the young man was literate and could chant. For a long time, said the elder, I have desired to have a disciple and live separately in a cell, but I could not find a Georgian. Then they moved to the cell of the holy prophet Elias, and soon Father Benedict tonsured Basil, renaming him Vissarion. For about 30 years they lived together, and Father Vissarion advanced in the path of asceticism. He possessed humility and simplicity of heart, and eventually, through his guilelessness, attained the state of a little child. Taught by his elder, he diligently practiced the noetic heartfelt prayer. Monk Jacob, from the Iveron skit, who occasionally attended their liturgies where Father Vissarion served as acolyte, remarked that he performed his service with such reverence that one might think he was an angel, not a man. On major monasteries' feast days, Father Vissarion would come and assist in the refectory of the Iveron monastery, most often serving the elder proestoses, helping their disciples prepare and serve food. The monastery workers, aware of Father Vissarion's kindness, always tried to be near the places where he was helping. When he carried a large tray with plates, people would surround him, asking for something to be given to them. Father Vissarion, seemingly without paying attention, would give away nearly half of the tray's content to those following behind. The novices, noticing this, began to complain to their elders, but the elders, knowing his simple-hearted nature, would place their fingers to their lips, giving a signal to them to remain silent. In the final years of his life, the elder suffered for many years from the common Athonite ailment of rheumatism. The fingers of his hands were twisted, and when he was laying down, he was always forced to keep one hand elevated in a sling attached to the ceiling. His blood could not longer warm his ailing body, and neither warm clothing nor blankets provided relief. Only hot tea offered him some warmth. Throughout his entire life on Mount Athos, the elder diligently engaged in unceasing Jesus prayer, and he remained in this prayerful state until his last breath. When it became apparent that the elder was utterly exhausted, they began to watch his movements closely. He had grown so weak that he was no longer able to recite the full prayer, but continually whispered, Upalo, Upalo, meaning Lord, Lord. On the evening of the 7th of October, 1893, he suddenly began to say that Protopresbyteros Georgios, the elder brother of his disciple Christophoros, had arrived. Those around him asked, Where is he? The elder replied, Don't you know that he has arrived on Athos, and with him some others? Those present assumed this was delirium and paid no attention to it. However, in fact, on that very same day, Protopresbyteros Georgios had arrived in Daphne from Georgia, accompanied by two other Georgians. The next morning they reached the Georgian cell of St. John the Theologian, and without resting, immediately requested to be taken to the cell of the holy prophet Elias, wishing to see the elder Vissarion without delay. The weather was rainy, but the protopresbyteros insisted that he felt an overwhelming desire to meet the elder as soon as possible, and set off at once. When the elder was informed that Father Georgios had arrived and brought him a letter from his own brother, the Bishop Gabriel of Imereti, he weakly said, Give me my letter. Taking it in his hands without opening it, he kissed it and returned it without even asking what his brother had written. After a brief meeting with the protopresbyteros, he spoke no more, remaining in a state of prayer the entire time. With prayer on his lips, he peacefully gave his soul into the hands of God on the 9th of October 1893. Elder Vissarion lived on Mount Athos for 58 years, all in one place. In total, from his birth, he lived 86 years.